What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to another video, another day, another dollar with your boy. We're going to be breaking down our futures contract, both the NQ and the ES. We'll be going over our 30-minute time frames, kind of discussing what happened today, kind of review a bad trade that I took. And, I took a few good trades today. Overall, was up on the day. Probably should have called it. And, I wanted to keep pressing the pedal, and I ended up getting hurt, and we'll talk about that here in just a minute. And then we'll look at our larger time frames, such as the daily. We'll look at the SPY and the triple Qs, because right now, because of the rollover, things look a little wacky on their charts as far as the future charts go, but they look a little bit more understandable on the ETFs. So we'll look at the correlating, ETF, such as the SPY and the triple Qs. Today, CPI came out. Some more whack ass data came out, which caused this market to just kind of do absolutely nothing. It was a bit of a non-event thing. Nothing happened with CPI. I guarantee you there were a lot of people that were like, oh my God, CPI came out hotter than expected. This market's about to freaking tank. Little did they know, we did the exact opposite. That was what you should have expected from the jump. You should never lean too far into headline news to trade off of, right? You can definitely use it as a bit of a catalyst, but you should never trade solely off of that. And some things to kind of note is, let me bring up the 15-minute chart. This is going to kind of look funky because I got the standard deviations, but our overnight low, our overnight low in ES was at 44.95, okay? Our overnight high at the time was 45.19.25. All right. So one thing you want to note right out the gate is, which portion of the overnight do we get first? Do we get the overnight low, or do we get the overnight high? As buyers and sellers, that's something you want to definitely have marked on your chart, is where the overnight session high was, which in this case was 19.25, and where the overnight low session was, and in this case was 44.95. And as you can see, as soon as we opened up on this 8:30 time frame, we shot straight up and took out that 45.19. You can see that right here. So immediately we got the overnight high, signifying that maybe sellers are not going to be as strong today, because if they were, they would have defended that overnight high, and we would have rolled over and pushed down and at least tested the 44.95, or even gotten that 44.95. We never even got close to that today. Even when we pulled back after the market opened later in the time frame, so keep that 44.95 level in your mind, right? That's down here. It's where the overnight session was. Even when we pushed down in B period, we never got down even close to that 44.95 level. Our low today was 45.03, and then we pushed back up, and then kind of initially had a bit of a nice little P shape going on, where each time we pushed up and made a new high, it was a fadeable event to at least come back in for a couple points. And that's kind of where I took some trades today, was in ES and in the NASDAQ, whenever we were fading the extremes or the edge, right, to come back in. There was a couple times I took longs, but it was more so in the NASDAQ that I was feeling more comfortable with the long side. They just had more movement going on, and but same thing with them, right? You definitely wanted to keep in mind where their overnight high and where their overnight low was. If I were to zoom in on this 15-minute chart that shows the entire session, their overnight low, actually this doesn't show the I lied. Here, we'll do it this way. Maximize. Just bear with me real quick. We'll go to futures, extended hours trading. We'll go ahead and show the full session from the overnight. Ooh, that looked ugly. Bring that back in. Okay. So our overnight low in the NASDAQ was way down here at 15,406, and that was printed at around 7:30, in that 7:30 time frame. Our overnight high was printed earlier in the morning at around 2:30 a.m. That was the overnight high. Yep, overnight high was around 2:30 a.m. at 15,529. Okay, so we pushed up above that right out the gate. Once 8:30 rolled around and we opened up and drove straight up and didn't even look back. Never even came close. So kind of signifying, and we filled that set of single prints and worked our way back into that upper distribution from yesterday, because yesterday was a double distribution, right? We did hold a little bit of single prints in yesterday's session. So once we took out the overnight high, just kind of signified that maybe sellers weren't as strong, and this bearish news event wasn't going to be anything of significance. Okay, now let me take this back to normal. By the way, I got a new mouse, so things are going to flow a little bit smoother in my opinion. Okay. Maybe not. So, things were, looking pretty good for buyers, right? Especially after B period, when we pushed down pretty good in B period below the previous day's low, and NASDAQ couldn't quite get the overnight low. Remember that overnight low was 15,400. Couldn't quite get the overnight low. We did push down near it. Same thing in B period and the ES, but we quickly rallied and got back into the previous day's range. And usually when you do that, you can kind of expect a decent amount of chop. Now, NASDAQ attempted to go trend up, but usually whenever you're in a balance, you're not going to hold single prints, and you're going to just kind of have like this grinding motion up, where we kind of set higher highs, higher lows, but no real significance as far as trend is concerned. So NASDAQ just kind of grinded up all day. Didn't do a whole lot early on with NASDAQ. I did get involved later in the day on pullbacks where I was comfortable. I was taking longs essentially against the 144 simple moving average. Every time we pulled back, I would have gotten long, and was looking to rally basically a couple points off of the 144 simple moving average, and kind of continue to grind up higher. And I did that a few times. I even took shorts a few times whenever we made newer highs. Once I seen we made a new high, couldn't get much for it, I entered on the short side. It quickly came in, and I got out of the trade, right? So I was kind of pounding them around early on in the NASDAQ. I took a few trades in the ES, kind of doing the same thing, but more or less for less points. Really wasn't moving as much, kind of tight ranges. So I was taking them for like a point or 2 points at a time whenever it came to the ES. But NASDAQ, I was getting, they have a little bit more of a larger range, and I was getting some pretty good moves. So I was getting about 5-10 points at a time. Now, I was up pretty good on the day going into the later time frames of the day, around 1:30, right? I was up pretty good on the day. And this is where I got myself in trouble, right? For some reason, I had this feeling in the back of my head that this market was going to do exactly what it did, which is get a pretty good liquidation break to the downside. And that was because all of this volume up here, all of these buyers on both NASDAQ and the ES being my left-handed chart, right? All of these buyers where I'm about to highlight, all of these buyers right here wanted to get paid, but they were not. Same thing in NASDAQ, right? All of these buyers right in here wanted to get paid, but we're not getting paid on pushes up. Not very much anyway. So the moment we started to take out stops, people began to get out, shorts began to pile in, and we just began to hit out stop point after stop point, right? So we hit that 15,577 stop. Next stop was that 70 stop. We hit that, and then we just continued to liquidate down lower. Once we got the 54 stop, we continued to liquidate lower, right? So as soon as we got below the 144 simple moving average, that's when things kind of began to negate for us. Now this is where I got in trouble, is on the pullbacks early on, right around, let me highlight it on the 1 minute chart here, right in here actually is where I got long. I was looking for an afternoon pullback low scenario. So I was, looking to get an afternoon pullback low, and I had my stop down at a few points below 70, right? So below this stopping point here. and it would have been below this stopping point. Let me find it on the chart. Essentially, this was my stopping point right here. That was where I was going to get stopped out at on the 1 minute chart. Also, the relatively close to my 30-minute chart stopping point. So I was going to get stopped out basically below VWAP. If we got below VWAP, I would have been stopped out. And you know, that is pretty decent range. And I was trading the MNQs, but basically up to a 10 lot to the points where I was trading one full NASDAQ. And you know, as it, ooh, that's ugly. As it came in, you know, and especially once we pushed up, I should have taken the profits against the 144 simple moving average. I actually had my take profit point at 93, or yeah, 93. Nope, not 93, 94. I think 50. I think I was trying to get it right here around the 94 level. So just trying to get a pop above the 144 simple moving average, and I would have gotten out of that trade. But we didn't even get that. And as soon as that happened, I should have gotten out of the trade. And I do believe at the time I kind of stepped away from the market, which was not something I should have done. So we failed to get above the 144 simple moving average on our 1 minute chart, right? We had experienced some type of weakness. We've already stopped the one time framing down. I'm looking for an afternoon pullback low scenario. Once we came back to break even, I should have got out of the trade. Instead, I let this thing come in on me about 20 to 30 points, and I got stopped out of the trade. Now here's where I got in trouble again, is once that time frame, once this big liquidation break here at 1:30, you know, finished up, and we opened up in the next 30-minute time frame, after K period stopped, I got long in L, which is Larry. I got long once again, thinking, okay, maybe that's all they wanted to do. And this was before we set new lows below 2350. I was like, okay, maybe that's all they wanted to do. I'll get long again. So I got long once more. Once we got back above the VWAP area, right? Once we got back above VWAP, I was long once again at around the 50 level, and this time larger size. So I had about a 3 or 30 MNQs because I'm like revenge trading at this point. And this is where things just kind of go wrong, right? I wasn't controlling my emotions. I was revenge trading, and I got hurt, right? Because I was trying to take the trade to come back up to where all this volume was done up here. I was like, okay, maybe that's all they wanted to do. This is an afternoon rally or afternoon pullback low. We'll hold K's low down here at 2350, and we'll rotate back up to at least the 144 simple moving average, which at the time was around the 83 level. And I would have been taking profits around 70. So I was trying to get, you know, 20 points on a 30 lot back up. So, you know, do the math, would have basically put me break even on the day. Instead, this thing shot back down, stopped me out below 2350, and I just got demolished even more so. So overall, what was a very good day early on, and I was reading the market very well, taking the trades that I was taking, fading and buying, you know, to go long, just kind of slapping them around in this range, turned disastrous, especially whenever we had this pullback. Now, a lot of times this trade works. This trade works a lot of times, but not as often whenever you're in a balance, right? I kind of forgot about the context of the market that we were in. And I definitely did not respect the short-term traders, and I got hurt on this pullback. And then eventually, you know, my emotions got involved, and I forgot the mission at hand, which is to protect the capital. Instead, I did not protect capital. I got more involved, and yeah, definitely hurt myself more. Where I could have taken this off for a $250 loss to break even up here and just called it a day, and still would have been up on the day. Instead, I continued to buy, and just got hurt more. And yeah, so that is kind of my story of today. You know, I'm not upset initially about the failure here, right? I don't consider this first position a failure. What I do consider a failure is the fact that I let it go as far as it did and hit my stopping point. I don't think me taking the trade initially was the wrong idea. I think that is a trade I'll take, you know, 90% of the time I'll take that trade, but I definitely should have paid more attention to the tempo and the volume that it increased right on this pullback. Should have paid attention a little bit more to that. There's some more context, right? We didn't get back above that 144. I should have seen this coming, and I didn't. And instead I got hurt, right? All this volume up here that was looking for newer highs, all that turned into some type of resistance, and all of them got absolutely squeezed out of their position and liquidated. And anybody that was like me, thinking this market would return back up here and potentially set new highs, which, you know, tends to happen whenever you're not in a balance zone, got demolished as well. So that is kind of today's story, right? Not upset about the first position, but definitely about the other positions where I let my emotions get involved. And this is something that happens to me at least, you know, once every couple of months. I've gotten better about it. I used to do this more often. I've definitely grown from the trader that I used to be, which was, you know, I definitely used to let my emotions get more involved. And, you know, I would take those wacky trades that I shouldn't be getting involved in with size. And then today I just kind of forgot about the mission and let my emotions trade it, and just kind of pulled some fuck it trades. And I literally have a sticky note in front of me that says no more fuck it trades. And I definitely broke that rule today, and paid for it for sure. So moral of the story is, we won't go over any destinations today. We just we have today's high, today's low, in both NASDAQ and ES. You should be able to mark those by your lonesome. I believe you're a big boy and girl. You should definitely be able to mark your highs and lows of the day by now. There's no real significant points of control, no afternoon pullback lows, no afternoon rally highs, nothing of that nature. So you should definitely be able to mark your destinations. We'll look at the bigger picture in a second, but moral of the story is control your emotions, use stop points, right? Respect them, and then pay attention to the short-term traders and nuances, such as this push-up not getting above the 144 super moving average, volume increasing on the pullback. Cut the loss early instead of holding on, and don't let your emotions get involved on these vicious pullbacks. Okay. You know, I'm learning. I hope you're learning as well. This is something that I definitely am going to continue to work on. And I think every trader, even if they're at a more professional level of trading, you know, still struggle with today, is letting their emotions get involved and knowing when to get out, but not doing it. And that's kind of the hardest thing to do, is keep that ego in check. You know, I was like, I'm right on all these trades up here. Should definitely be right on this. And I was more wrong than I was right. Let's go ahead and enough with the rant. Let's go ahead and look at the larger time frame. And if you have stuck around, I truly appreciate it. Honestly, if you've stuck around this entire time, listen to me rant, you know, you're a freaking G. You gotta respect it. You're a G. All right, let's look at SPY. Because ES and NASDAQ, their futures contract looks a little bit wacky on the daily. So I kind of just have it highlighted here. But we are in a balance. We're in a choppy trading zone. I guess I can get more technical and mark the high up here and the low down here. But we are in a very, very choppy sideways action type of market where things like afternoon pullback low, afternoon rally high, trend with single prints, those things are going to be a little bit more harder to come by until we have the market generated information to come out of this. Maybe this is a great area for some long-term buying and accumulation to happen between the 20 and the 50-day moving average to push up to all-time highs. And I do think that's going to happen by the end of year. And It might be after we test a little bit lower and find out that, you know, there isn't much supply to the downside, unless something drastic you know, some black swan event comes out of the market and just kind of throws us overboard. But right now we're in a very wide multi-day balance. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 days of balance so far. We'll, you know, whenever we come out of this, we should come out of it with some pretty good steam. All right, so daily balance on the SPY. Now let's look at the triple Qs real quick. Triple Qs is going to be the exact same thing. Triple Qs is going to be, you know, 1, 2, 6 days of balance, right? They're holding above the 50-day moving average in triple Qs right now, but the same concept. You could see a whole lot of chop going on in here until we break out a balance of the high or the low, right? Either we find acceptance above the 50-day moving average and the 20, get above this 377 level on the triple Qs, and then continue to push up higher to set yearly highs and then eventually all-time highs. But if we find acceptance below this 369 level, you will go test prices lower, where we'll most likely get rejected. But keep that in mind. Wear your hard hats. Keep your emotions in check. If you stuck around to the end of this video, please leave a like down below. Comment how you traded today. If you got hurt, let me know how, you know, what you could have done to prevent it. I definitely know what I could have done to prevent my trades from getting as demolished as they were, as I was up pretty good on the day. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, once again, thanks for stopping by. Hope you all have a wonderful day, and we'll catch you in the next one. See you.